24 hours till Trump's tariffs. What's the plan as the clock winds down? This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
All the news you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Will he or won't he? He says he will. U.S. President Donald Trump is still saying his administration plans to hit Canada and Mexico with tariffs of 25% tomorrow.
So we'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number two are the drugs, fentanyl, and everything else that have come into the country. And number three are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico. And we will really have to do that because we have very big deficits with those countries. Those tariffs may or may not rise with time.
President Trump was also asked what that means for oil exports from Canada to the United States.
Oil is going to have nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. Oil has nothing to do with it.
But is he serious? The Wall Street Journal is reporting that some of Trump's advisors are considering several quote-unquote off-ramps to avoid these tariffs, but Reuters is reporting that Trump is expected to invoke the International Emergency Economic Powers Act as the legal basis for imposing tariffs. Under such a scenario, the president would declare a national emergency in the United States over fentanyl overdoses and illegal immigration. So what's the Canadian plan if this does come to pass and Canada gets hit with tariffs as soon as tomorrow? Speaking in Montreal, the federal minister of industry, François-Philippe Champagne, maintained Canada is still in a strong negotiating position, but he also called it a wake-up call.
I'm always reminded when I go to Washington, I hope you're happy to see me because I represent your biggest customer. Canada buys more from the United States than China, Japan, the UK, and France combined. So that's a very good position to start when you negotiate, to say I'm your biggest client. And then we're going to be looking at, the different industries. And so we've been, you know what, in a way, you can look at what happened and say, this is a wake-up call for Canada. In a way, if you want to look at that as an opportunity, you say, what the new administration is giving is a wake-up call. Kind of the one we had after the Second World War when CDR rebuilt the industrial landscape in this country, where we built an aerospace industry, when we built a naval industry to make sure we could meet the demand that we had. So we're going to be engaging with labor. We're going to be engaging with leaders in the business community. But I think the mission we have is also to bring confidence.
Speaking in St. John's, the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Andrew Furey, called on the federal government to meet the moment.
They need to come up with a robust plan that will support workers in the impacted industries, but also not to lose sight of the adjacent workers. And so when you consider in our beautiful province, the fishery, it's not just, we all love and care about our fishermen, but it's not just about the harvesters, although it is about them. It's about plant workers. It's about the truckers. It's about the people who supply ice. It's about the community supports. So there was definitely unity across the country on the fact that we are calling on the federal government to use the full power that they have, that subnational governments don't necessarily have, to meet the moment for Canadians. Because make no mistake, this is an existential moment for Canadians, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and I think there was unity on that front.
The Labour Minister in the federal government is Steve McKinnon. As of yesterday, he was still talking about contingency plans, but said the government would have the backs of its workers.
Tariffs with which we do not agree being imposed on Canada either February 1st, which has been speculated about, or April 1st, or at any other date. One thing that you can be very sure about is the Government of Canada is prepared. The Government of Canada will retaliate. The Government of Canada will protect workers throughout this process. We will have people's backs throughout any adverse economic effects caused by the imposition of what we think are irrational tariffs imposed on the United States' best friend and best ally. So we're working very hard right now to avoid those, but should they come, Canada will respond, And Canada will respond forcefully, and the United States will feel it, unfortunately.
There have been several news reports that the federal government is readying a pandemic-style relief program to help Canadian businesses and workers hit by tariffs. But to pass any sort of support for Canadians, Canada would need a sitting parliament. And right now, parliament is prorogued until the 24th of March. And even if parliament was sitting, the Liberals would need the support of another opposition party to pass any legislation because it's a minority government. In the past, they've been able to count on the support of the NDP. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is now saying he wants Parliament recalled so support programs could be passed. And then he says his party will defeat the Liberals sometime in the spring, triggering an election.
We will be voting against the government when we return to Parliament end of March. We'll be voting against the government, and there will be an election in spring. But before that time, there is 2 months. So is the Liberal government proposing that we do nothing for 2 months? That these workers behind me who are worried about tariffs, if those tariffs are imposed in February, will get no support for 2 months? What would that mean to a worker that's living paycheck to paycheck? They're not going to be able to afford their mortgage, their rent. They're not going to be able to buy groceries. So is the Liberal government seriously saying they're going to do nothing for these workers for 2 months and just wait till the end of March? I think that is wrong. So I'm calling on government, if they're serious about helping out these workers, recall Parliament right away. Let's put in targeted supports for these workers and the communities impacted by these tariffs that are going to potentially happen in a couple of days.
Yesterday, after Donald Trump repeated that tariffs would be coming to Canada tomorrow, the Canadian dollar dropped below 69 cents US. The loonie is trading right now at 69.41 cents US. It's up 41 basis points on the day. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
With our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, Barry McLaughlin's back with us, the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Barry lectures at the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa and at the MBA program at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University. Welcome back.
Great to be with you again, Rob.
So big news for Mark Carney, Liberal leadership contender. He had a news event in Halifax today, and he's going to axe the tax. He says the consumer carbon tax isn't working. It's too divisive, and he's going to cancel it and replace it with incentives to reward people for greener choices. We have a little bit of audio here. We'd like your take on it. This is Mark Carney in Halifax today.
In the past, you've supported the carbon tax and defended Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's stance on the carbon tax. Why now? Why are you coming up with this now?
Well, I think there's two things, Lindsay. One is that, and that's right, and it's worked. It has had some impact in terms of reducing our emissions, making things more efficient. But as I said in my remarks, and I think certainly colleagues would know and people would know, it has become very divisive. For Canadians, it's the perceptions of the impact, the negative impacts of the carbon tax on households without fully recognizing the positive impacts of the rebate has made this more of a divisive issue. It's been fed by misinformation and lies, quite frankly, by the leader of the opposition. But okay, we are in this situation, and it's important that climate policy has broad buy-in. There's a better way to do things. We've worked on coming up with a better way to do things, which keeps an element of the price on pollution, the most important element, which is the Industrial Price. And I'll just point out for those who...
All right. Taking a long time to get there to the answer, but I don't. It's a big turnaround for him. This is the UN climate envoy who has been promoting carbon taxes for a decade. Now he says the one in this country, at least at the consumer level, isn't working. He blames it on lies and misinformation by Mr. Pollia. But what do you think of the move?
Well, I told you months ago, he told me directly that in a public setting that he didn't feel carbon tax was necessary to achieve climate change. And it's pretty clear all along that he has been moving this way. I think he tried to time it in such a way that he has something tangible to replace it with, and that is, of course, incentives to people to buy green, appliances, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why he pushed off this full announcement until today. Remember, all this week, reporters and everybody else calling out to him, you'll have to wait. So I'm not sure he needed to wait all this time, but he did create his own special news event to do it. And, almost all the leadership candidates now are wanting to replace it. So it's not a shocker. It's just a bit of a surprise that he's kind of dragged it to this point.
What have you thought of his campaign so far? He is widely viewed now as the person to beat.
Oh, I think it's coming along very well for him. I mean, he's got so many endorsements now that it's a worry. Whoops, I'm supposed to be the candidate of change. And all of the machinery, all the leadership of the Liberal government are moved into my camp. It's hard to keep claiming you're an outsider. You'll probably not give it up, but that's a hard one to square that circle. But it's gone well. I mean, he really pulls it together. He goes across the country. We don't know what his numbers are in signups, but it looks like a very solid front-runner campaign. And, it's going to be hard to overcome that for any of the other candidates. Chrystia Freeland, I think, was how quickly she has dropped down. That was a bubble. We talked about that a few weeks ago. There was a guy, you go, girl, as she, threw the grenade at him on the way out the door.
That faded out pretty quick.
Faded out real fast, So I don't, she'll be up there, but it's hard to see her overcoming Mark Carney.
Okay. I watched today's event, and I was kind of comparing it to his original event in Edmonton where he launched his campaign. He was better today. He was more animated, more energy. Yeah. It looked more professional. Yeah. There was more energy in the room. His French was a little bit better, too, I would say. But you said last week he's got to try and get himself into the news. Yeah. Does something like this do the trick?
Oh, yeah. I mean, other than the tariffs tomorrow, this one is number 2 in the slots and led your newscast and so on. So, I think that it's the right way to do it. You have to have announceables. Don't just sort of say, shake hands and give speeches. You have to have announceables, especially leadership. We want to see where's he going to take the country, because obviously the winner of this automatically becomes prime minister, even for a very short time. Nevertheless, we need to see where he's taking the country, and he needs to make firm commitments as he goes through this process. So he's starting to do that, and looks rock solid. Be hard to shake him. For sure.
Okay. When we come back, we'll talk about Pierre Poilievre, who's kind of quiet lately, which is unusual for Pierre Poilievre, let's face it. We'll talk about that. The conservative strategy from here on in. I'm Rob Snow, here with Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants, and this is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Back with Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. And if you'll just pardon me, Barry, that I just want to mention that Reuters is reporting that tariffs will not happen tomorrow for Canada, but rather will begin March 1st. March 1st, and will, quote, include a process for the countries to seek specific exemptions for certain imports, according to 3 people familiar with the planning. That is from Reuters just literally 6 minutes ago. So I was wondering why the Canadian dollar all of a sudden popped like 50 basis points. So there you go. Maybe we breathe a sigh of relief. Who knows? Maybe all of this is for nothing. Let's turn our attention to Pierre Poilievre. Some pundits say his campaign is struggling to deal with recent developments because Mr. Trudeau has one foot out the door. The carbon tax appears to be out the door as well, and Trump and tariffs have taken over. And you have a conservative leader that for months on end was saying Mr. Trudeau called a carbon tax election, but now there's no Mr. Trudeau, no carbon tax, and this new threat called tariffs. What should the Conservatives be doing now?
Well, they have invested heavily in carbon tax Carney and carbon tax election and so on. And, that, although there will always be a percentage that will want for that reason to turf them out, I think you and I talked about this for quite some time now. It's ultimately this election has changed versus more of the same. I mean, that's number one. Number two, we certainly have this, you just mentioned that news item. If it goes to March 1st, it's 30 days keeping this at the front burner, because uncertainty is always more unsettling than certainty. So if that makes sense, it's very unsettling because you don't know what you don't know. And so I think whoever's going to be the toughest, whoever's going to demonstrate that they are going to stand up for Canada will tend to win that argument and have something tangible to back it up. There's a lot of emotion around it. Even Christian Freeland saying that we ought to stop services back and forth. We ought to wait a second here. The billions and billions of dollars in providing services, not goods, but services, including in our kind of business and so on. That's all you're doing is self-punishing there. That is not helping the situation. So you have to be careful what you're throwing in, onto the fire here. And I think the Trudeau government is showing a certain amount of restraint here as they wait for the final announcement. So I think he is caught in a bit of a situation. Don't open your mouth for the sake of it. He realizes that he can't jump in and turn around this discussion. He just has to show he will stand up to Trump, and that appears to be what he's doing in a low-key way. There's no question about it.
But there's this whole line, you don't want to fight the last war.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering from a Conservative Party point of view, is Trudeau and the carbon tax, is that the last war? You don't want to fight the last war. You want to fight
maybe not so much. I mean, we still have it on there, and claiming you want to do something, that's interesting. So I think that it is a very unpopular, it's a remarkably enduringly negative public policy initiative. Right. We all got over the GST to a great extent. Didn't get over this one. So he's not,
And you were around, Barry, in those days, advising the Mulroney government. Minister Chrétien was very effective at saying he basically rode that to an election victory, right?
And he misled Canadians. He did not change it. And in fact, certainly benefited from it. But I think this is a different situation. So Canadians have to know what are you actually going to do about climate change is a real concern. And we haven't heard quite enough about that. And also then, we've got to realize that, you need to make sure the ballot question that you're putting forward to Canadians is the one they're going to decide. Because if the gap starts to close somewhat, you got to watch for losing momentum. So I think that there are some concerns there that he's got to get a hold of and be ready for.
Wow, what an interesting time. Okay.
Sure is.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Rob.
Great to hear from you. Yeah, Barry McLoughlin is with TLC as Transformational Leadership Consultants. I'm Rob Snow. We'll be back with Tom Korski. He's the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. He'll join us after the latest breaking news here on News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Well, he's been minding Ottawa's business all week long. Tom Korski is back with us. He's the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rob.
Gosh, the news is coming fast and furious today. I mean, we have Mark Carney, United Nations climate envoy, climbing down on the consumer carbon tax today. And the not to be outdone, the federal minister of finance is now making tax and investment policy announcements by way of press release. Isn't that something? Dominic LeBlanc announcing today a deferral, Tom, not a cancellation, not bad idea, we're giving up on it. No, a deferral of the increase of the capital gains inclusion rate from June 25th, 2024, so summer of last year, to January 1st of 2026.
Or
by which
more
time
the 12th of never. You'll know. The 12th of
never. And then has the moxie to say, as we quickly approach tax season, this deferral will provide certainty to Canadian taxpayers. Well, isn't that something?
It's like
certainty,
it's an election.
Because there's been anything but certainty around that. And people have made estate planning decisions based on that capital gains inclusion rate already. So it's Quite something to behold. All right. Another big story this week, although maybe not providing the fireworks some had imagined, was the final report from the Foreign Interference Inquiry, the OG Commission. Let's remind people what the Prime Minister said, by Mr. Trudeau. He was the final witness at the OG Commission, and what he said about the members of the Conservative Party and links to foreign agents. We have the audio of his testimony. Go ahead, David.
Because I am Prime Minister and privy to all these informations, I have the names of a number of parliamentarians, former parliamentarians and or candidates in the Conservative Party of Canada who are engaged or at high risk of, or for whom there is clear intelligence around foreign interference. And I have directed CSIS and others to try and inform the Conservative Party leader to be warned and armed to be able to make decisions that protect the integrity of that party, of its members, from attempts at activities around foreign interference.
Okay, that was his claim. I have top secret evidence that links the Conservative Party to foreign agents, but what does the final report from this inquiry say about that?
Well, it's a big report. It runs for 7 volumes, Rob. It's 860 pages. And the reference to it, the Prime Minister described as explosive, extremely alarming, I quote him accurately, extremely alarming information about my political opponents is dispensed with in a 2-paragraph reference that simply recites the Prime Minister's claim. You know what was interesting about that? Not that it was obvious that he had made it up. What was interesting was that counsel, room full of lawyers at the Commission on Foreign Interference, counsel not just for the Conservative Party, but even the New Democratic Party, pointed out that it was not corroborated, and in fact, the Prime Minister's claim was often contradicted by tens of thousands of pages that were tabled in evidence at that commission. And that it was so contrived, as you point out, it was the last hours of public testimony at a commission that had gone on for a year, so no one could call a rebuttal witness, oh, who's the clever boy? And that was the end of that. I got to tell you, Rob, I know there was some disappointment in the final report of the commission. The value in these inquiries is the documents. It's the same with the Freedom Convoy. That will be a very far-reaching arc. You wait and see.
Okay. Sticking with the same report, the Foreign Interference Inquiry final report, what does it say about the actions of Bill Blair while he was the Minister of Public Safety?
Speaking of which, as milquetoast as the judge was, there is this riddle wrapped in a mystery in Bill Blair's office when he was Public Safety Minister. The politest thing the judge could say was that Blair and his entire staff appeared to drop the ball, that there was unacceptable inactivity in his office. What happened? 20 words or less.
Okay.
Former police chief receives a request by police for a warrant, sign off, so they can place under surveillance Liberal Party operatives in Toronto who have suspicious contacts with the Chinese consulate. That sat around Blair's office for 54 days.
Yeah,
and when you asked him why, it was like questioning a houseplant. How am I supposed to know? I'm working from home. A really spectacular lack of curiosity. And a former law enforcement officer, I thought Blair should have resigned, but everyone knows that doesn't happen in this town.
Yeah, Justice Hogue uses, I would characterize it as polite language. Nothing in the evidence, she said, nothing in the evidence really explains the highly unusual delay. Okay. All right. We're here with Tom Korski. When we come back, we'll talk about enlistment in the Canadian Armed Forces and how that looks right now. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Back with Tom Korski, the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. What is the state of recruitment and enlistment for the Canadian Armed Forces, Tom?
Always bad, Rob, and now it's truly terrible, according to data and briefing notes from the Department of National Defense. Minimum strength in the regular force, this is fully trained, equipped regular forces, Army, Navy, and Air Force. Their figure is about 72,000. Their trained effective strength is currently about 52,000. By comparison, that's about twice the size of the Belgian armed forces. I once drove across Belgium, and I left at breakfast, and I was done by lunchtime.
Right.
That's the state of our armed forces. It's unbelievable. It's really what we would say is a large municipal police force by international standards. They're down to just under 53,000 trained effective strength.
And they say that minimum strength has to be almost 72,000.
Exactly right. And that's
so they're
minimum.
about 20,000 shy.
Not even close, exactly.
Yeah. What explains this?
You know, there have been a number of analyses of that. One is there was complaints about pay, but another one was, by their estimate, it can take up to 6 months for a recruit to be approved. Can you imagine? 6 months.
6 months.
Even the successive ministers of defense have said, look, you're not going to have job applicants. Quickie Mart doesn't make you stand around for half a year while they decide whether you're suitable as a recruit. And it's been baffling. There have been suggestions to cut the minimum enlistment period in half to about 18 months. They've tried everything. My favorite was 2 years ago. They were going to start to accept landed immigrants. These are not Canadian citizens, landed immigrants, on a promise of speeding their Canadian citizenship application. This is classic Ottawa. Total successful enlistments to date under the program targeting immigrants, 111.
111 people. That's it.
Yes,
wow.
We're not getting it done.
On the count. No, I guess not. Well, this is kind of strange. What claim did the federal government make about the use of clean energy, renewable energy to power the vast real estate holdings of the federal government?
It was going to be great. It was going to be really something. We won the war on climate change because in 2025, federal offices were going to be using 100%, not 90, 100% clean
100%.
electricity in 2025. That's not a report from yesteryear. The Department of Finance just published that. That's their accountability report, the first one they've ever issued. By the way, Rob, it's classic, isn't it? That's impossible. It's
so you're
impossible.
saying they didn't hit that target then?
No, they didn't.
No.
They missed it by quite a bit because it would mean that you'd have to turn off the lights at the Department of Agriculture office in Weyburn or the Fisheries office in Halifax, or my favorite, any Crown Indigenous Relations office in Iqaluit, where 100% of the power comes from diesel generators. So we missed it by, well, not even that much, actually quite a bit.
Right. By 2025, all federal buildings will use 100% clean electricity, renewable electricity. Well, it's 2025 and didn't quite get there. Just a bit outside. Okay. I love these stories about members of our great public service, especially at the Canada Revenue Agency, all 58,000 of them. We love you. We love you there. Why did an executive at the Canada Revenue Agency challenge a bonus that wasn't paid?
As she said in her petition to a labor board, it's not fair. It was unfair, quote, end of quote. She didn't get her bonus for 4 months because she wasn't at work for 4 months. In fact, she was on paid leave. But she didn't get bonus while the time for the 4 months she was off work. The bonus was $5,000, by the way. You're talking about a bonus, $300 a week, just for, as we have discussed in the past, Rob, for putting your pants on in the morning and going to the office.
Yes.
She missed out on $5,000. I imagine there were hot tears of indignation, and the board said, well, nice try. By the way, this is $178,000 a year executive at the CRA.
Right. And basically the ruling was, well, if you want to collect your $5,000 bonus, you actually
have to put your pants on in the morning.
Yeah. You have to, maybe you have to come to work. Okay, so look, I mean, the carbon tax has one foot out the door. The capital gains has been deferred now. The increase of the capital gains inclusion rate, all of these things are falling by the wayside. We still have a couple of more weeks to go for the GST holiday. Everybody's saving on the GST on select items, although my Christmas tree is long gone now. What about that promise of a worker's benefit for $250? Everybody making under $150,000, as long as they worked, will get $250. What am I ever going to get a $250 check from this government or what?
There's some sad news here, Rob. I don't think you're getting your check.
Oh no!
It was going to be great. It was going to cost $5 billion borrowed money, and as you mentioned, everyone who filed a T4 slip last year on their tax return was going to get one of these sweet $250 checks. That's dead now, says the Minister of Public Works, who's responsible for the check writing office.
Right.
It was designed, as he said, the $250 checks were designed in a world where there was no Mr. Trump, said.
Okay, it's Mr. Trump's fault. I see. It's the president's
missed it by that
fault.
much. It was that close.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. It's Donald Trump's fault. There you go, everybody. It's Donald Trump's fault if you were counting on the $250. Donald Trump's fault. But at least if you're in Ontario, you got the $200. So I hope that makes up for it. You got Doug Ford's $200. So okay. All right. Look, great to hear from you. Have a great weekend, Tom Korski.
You too, Rob. Thank you.
Wonderful stuff as always from Blacklock's Reporter, where he is the managing editor, minding Ottawa's business. And aren't you glad someone is? I'm Rob Snow here with David Smith on a Friday. It's Now You Know on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
And if you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show. When you want to listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's SEEKR, spelled SEEKR. All kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, sports. You can download it for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled SEEKR. And Now You Know with Rob Snow, also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. Well, David, we made it to Friday.
Again. Yeah, we did.
And we made it to the last day of January.
Against all odds, here we are, still standing.
Like 1 month of winter down, Dave. Down. It's gone. It's over. Into February. Sunday, by the way, is Groundhog Day.
Oh, okay. So we'll find out.
I'm so
when
glad that we're
starts.
not working on Groundhog Day. Can I be honest with you, Dave?
Yeah.
Just as a news person, I am like so sick of Groundhog Day. Like you reporting on the groundhogs and what the groundhogs did, and this groundhog said this, and that groundhog said that. Now in Atlantic Canada, don't they do they have a lobster that predicts whether it's going to be 6 more weeks
they
of
do.
winter and everything else, right? So yeah, I just find the whole thing silly. And I mean, with the weather at least in this part of the country, we were speaking to the boss in Calgary who said it was 10 degrees. So I was like so totally jealous. I mean, we are having like an old-fashioned Canadian winter in this part of the country. It's been lots of snow and lots of cold. But anyway, Sunday's Groundhog Day.
It's Lucy the lobster. Lucy the lobster.
Yeah. Okay.
Last year, Lucy
thanks
saw her shadow. Actually, the last 3 years in a row, Lucy has predicted more winter.
Okay.
So hopefully we can buck that trend this weekend. Okay. Yeah.
So look, I mean, it's been a busy news day already. Mark Carney had a big event in Halifax where he says no more consumer carbon tax. If I win the Liberal leadership and become prime minister, that carbon tax is gone. We're having the Friday Free for All Talkback Hour coming up right after the news at the top of the hour. That's one of the topics that I would certainly like to get into. And big news about Trump and tariffs today. You know, Trump has been saying tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's tariff day for Canada and Mexico, 25%. We've got to do something about drugs and illegal immigration and the trade deficits that we have with these countries. And now the big developing story has been broken by Reuters. Whether it comes to pass or not, all depends on, I guess, the quality of the sources that Reuters news service is speaking with. But they spoke to 3 people who all said it's not going to be tomorrow. It'll be March 1st, Dave. It's going to be March 1st. So the Canadian dollar, you can almost track the tariff story just by looking at the what's going on with the currency market. So yesterday, Trump had a news conference. Well, he had 2 news conferences. He had one about the terrible crash between the helicopter and the plane in the D.C. area, and then he had another one later in the day, and he was asked about tariffs. He said, tariffs are coming tomorrow. I said, February 1st? I mean, February 1st. They're coming tomorrow. And then the dollar went, boom, all the way down to 68.78 cents U.S. And then this Reuters story hit, gosh, it's like 45 minutes ago now. This thing dropped on the news wires. Pop, the Canadian dollar popped on that. And now the Canadian dollar, I mean, basically where it is, it's up almost 80 basis points compared to where it was at the low yesterday. And we're back up to, the not so stellar place, but, still 69.5 cents U.S. is better than 68.5 cents U.S. So the Canadian dollar rallying on the news that tariffs might not be coming tomorrow doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet. It still means tariffs could be coming a month from now. Another month of Trump and tariff drama for Canada. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. The Friday free-for-all talkback coming up right after the news. We'll follow your lead today. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. It is the Friday free-for-all, so that's our favorite day of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics during the Friday free-for-all. We have been doing that all week. So today, we'll leave that big job up to you. What do you want to talk about? Whatever's on your mind. If you want to talk about something that has been in the news, I mean, there's certainly no shortage of news. If you want to talk about something that you think should be in the news, you feel free to raise it here, and we'll just do our best to follow along. We have phone lines available right now. We'd love to hear from you today. The number to call is 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. If you have never called before, just mention that to the call screener, and we'll make your call a priority. Okay? We'll bump you up to the front of the line. 1-833-668-2577. Steve is in Calgary. What's on your mind today? Steve, thanks for calling.
Yeah, in Calgary, they just towed a guy who was causing no problems in an industrial park, his motorhome. He's been living there for a number of years. Didn't leave trash anywhere. Wasn't causing a problem. Okay. They deliberately turned him into a homeless guy, and they took all his worldly possessions. He cannot afford rent, which is about $1,500 a month, because the guy's on H. In fact, his total check is probably about $1,500 a month. So what you have in large municipalities is an absolute disdain for RV parking and manufactured homes. And the thing is, Canada has a housing shortage for low income of about 60,000 units. Each unit costs $300,000. That comes to $18 billion. Even if you had the money, it would take years to build that out. So, are you in Ottawa, Canada?
We are in Ottawa, yes, sir, in the Ottawa area.
You have 10 inner-city RV parks. I don't know if you're aware of this. In Calgary, we have 0, and that's on purpose. But I grew up in rural Alberta, and the way it works is every town site has RV parks for a reason. Because when you need something built in your county, the workers come out in their RVs because you don't have hotel space. And every small town under 10,000 people, they figure it out. but Calgary won't do it. Anyways, our mayor and council, who just dropped $1 billion on 250 electric buses and a hockey rink, somehow can't figure out. Oh, and I want to finish with this. Every large city has a 30-year land supply that is currently undeveloped. It's not like we don't have the available land.
Sure, lots of land. Yeah. It makes
Anyways,
you wonder. I mean, if this is becoming such a problem, and I'm sure it's not just a Calgary problem, because of the state of the housing crisis, not just a Calgary issue, of course. What would it cost, say, to find some vacant parcel of land and equip it so that RVs could park there? What would be the infrastructure cost of that, do you think?
Well, you would start with land that already has no utilities. It costs $15,000 to bring out roads and utilities.
I just wonder, would the municipality of Calgary even own such land already? That is already serviced. That
they already own it. I've said the same thing about manufactured homes. That's a whole different phone call. But you could make so that to buy a manufactured home is $80,000 to $150,000. But the government doesn't want to own that. You would lease the land out to for low-income housing. They would buy the manufactured home, and their rent would then be, say, or their mortgage would be $500 a month. And then it's no different than they're building homes on the reserve west of Calgary. They got a whole commercial district. That's all leased land.
So I gather the city's side of the story is you can't be in an RV and parked on a city street for more than 36 hours, and they say that most of these RVs wouldn't qualify to go to even an RV park because they're too old. That's what the city's claim
that's
is.
Absolutely true. Just north of the city.
But I guess my point is, okay, you elect city council. God knows how many people work for the city of Calgary. What would be your estimate, the number of staff at the city of Calgary?
15,000.
15,000 or so. Did the housing crisis just creep up on them? Your mayor and all your council, all the staff, and public works, whatever. Aren't these people elected and employed to figure out solutions to these problems?
It's a solution they don't want to entertain.
So what? Yeah, I understand. I'm not disagreeing with anything you say, sir. I think it's they've chosen, as you said right off the top, that their solution is going to take someone who at least has a roof over their head, and they've chosen to make that person homeless, which is deplorable in my opinion. Okay, I thank you for your call today. Thank you. Steve in Calgary. Rick in Dartmouth, good to hear from you again. Rick, what's on your mind today?
Hi. Thanks,
Rick.
Rob. Look, I joked with your call screener that Trump just called me, but I think I know what he's doing. I think it's based on his personal hatred of Justin Trudeau from the 2016 fiasco where Trudeau said one thing to Trump and then he went on, did a tirade against him, and Trump called him, two-faced. And I think that he initially thought that the tariffs would force Trudeau out and maybe cause an election. But since that didn't happen, and now the Canadian government is repositioning itself as the great savior and going to give us a bunch of free money again and put us further into debt, that Trump has realized, okay, well, we'll just wait for the tariffs, and hopefully he'll wait till the election is called and maybe reconsider. So
he wants to, this idea that the tariffs were going to happen tomorrow, but now we have these reports, no, March 1st, he wants to kick Trudeau around for another month, kind of thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of drama, a lot of heartache, and a lot of uncertainty for the country to go through. At least, I don't know what was going to happen tomorrow, but at least there would have been at least some kind of certainty. Okay, we know the decision, and this is how we can respond. And whether people disagree or not, at least we know where we stand. Now we're not going to know where we stand for another month, which is not good for the country.
Thing. The retaliation has no basis to help Canadians. It won't make Trump stop his actions, and all it will do, like I use the orange juice analogy, that if the price of orange juice goes up, I like orange juice, I'll just keep buying it and pay the extra money to the Canadian government. It's not hurting Trump, or it's not hurting the orange juice producers. They're still getting the same price for it. So the retaliation is probably going to hurt more Canadians than the tariffs that Trump would put on that would specifically hurt certain sectors.
Good to hear from you, Rick, in Dartmouth. And we're on our way. It's the Friday Free-for-All Talkback Hour. Again, our number to call, 1-833-668-2577. A few lines there available. And again, an appeal to first-time callers. I mean, if you've never called us before, we'd love to have a conversation with you about whatever happens to be on your mind. I mean, there's a lot of news that we can talk about, try to make sense of. We'll do it together here on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We will follow your lead today. What do you want to talk about on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback Hour? It's Ken up next on the line from Calgary today. Hi, Ken. How are you?
Hi, Rob. I'm good.
That's
the
good.
The comment, I'm not sure where the comment came from, you or your guest this morning, about Pierre Poilievre being unusually quiet. And I guess I asked this question or raised this because you're the communications expert. I'm not.
Okay.
But I guess I wonder why myself, but could it be a tactical maneuver on his part to, first of all, wait to find out who the actual leader of the Liberal Party is going to be before he expends all of his powder in that, I guess we don't want to kind of, in a position like his, we don't want to kind of expend all of our, and I don't want to use this term, but for a lack of a better term, bullets in one target. We are on several targets rather. We want to kind of zero in on one particular individual, and if we kind of spill the beans, then it kind of not only gives the other side the reveals our tactics, but people over time get sick of hearing the same thing, and they just begin to tune out. So, is it possibly a tactic on his part not to zero in too quickly? And I mean, I think he's already got a win by saying, carbon tax Carney, because in essence he was the author of the carbon tax, and now he's forced, in a way, he's forced them to remove that. So to me, that's a win, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think they're. I don't know. I don't have any insight into this. I think they're probably strategizing now that one of the biggest promoters, not just in Canada but around the world, of the carbon tax is now surrendering on one of his most closely held beliefs. Because Mark Carney's most common complaint about the carbon tax up until today was that, well, twofold. Not enough countries had a carbon tax and more countries need carbon taxes. And that when countries did pass carbon taxes, they weren't high enough. And now that he's running for Liberal leader and he's in politics and not a United Nations climate envoy, and he wants to win an election, he's giving up on this belief. So I guess they're trying to figure out their strategy. Okay, how do we keep tying Mark Carney to the carbon tax, even if Mark Carney wants to run away from the carbon tax? How do you call him carbon tax Carney if there's no carbon tax? If you know.
Well, to me, as a consumer and a citizen, I'm not sure. To me, that matters, because what it says to me is that they made a bad move. They didn't listen to people. The only reason they're listening to people now is because they want to stay in power, and it's basically like an election gimme, right? And again, to me, replacing that carbon tax with something else is just a carbon tax by another name.
Yeah. I mean, the party, not Pierre Poilievre, but I mean, he's the leader of the party, did issue a statement. I mean, like an hour ago. I can read a little bit of it here. This is from the Conservative Party. Today, Mark Carney announced he will pause Trudeau's carbon tax until after the election and then bring in a bigger tax with no rebate. Whatever he tries to tell Canadians now, carbon tax Carney has been Justin Trudeau's economic growth advisor, who has been saying for years not only that he supports consumer carbon taxes, but that they need to be even higher. Carbon tax Carney simply can't be trusted. So that, you have it's an attack ad, I guess, that kind of writes itself, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I'll let you go with this. And that is, with the U.S. now saying drill, baby, drill, you've got India, you've got China, you've got Russia. We're kind of an anomaly in terms of, doing anything that's going to make any difference. I'm wondering why we're even doing that, especially in today's climate where, tariffs are being talked about, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to leave you with that. Anyway, thank you very much.
All right, Ken. Thank you for your call today. I'm Rob Snow. It's the Friday Free for All Talkback Hour. Join the discussion, will you? There's lots of news that we can talk about today. Or if it's something else that you think is newsworthy, you raise it here. We'd love to hear from you. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So the biggest story all week has been Trump and tariffs, what it means for Canada, how Canadian political leaders would respond if Trump follows through on this pledge, 25% tariff coming to Canada tomorrow, March 1st. Then about an hour and a half ago, there was a story from Reuters News Service. No tariffs tomorrow, but tariffs on March 1st, not February 1st, March 1st. So at the White House press briefing today, the press secretary, what is her name, David? Do you happen to know her name again? I don't know her name.
Caroline Leavitt.
Caroline Leavitt, okay, was asked about tariffs, and this is what she said about tariffs. March 1st tariffs.
Reuters are reporting that the president has made a decision on the Canada and Mexico tariffs, but that they won't actually be implemented until March 1st. I was wondering if you could confirm that and talk through some of the president's thinking.
I saw that report and it is false. I was just with the president in the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
The president yesterday said that last night he was planning to discuss whether an exemption would be made on oil imports. Do you have any information on what decision he made there, or will there be exemptions at all offered under this?
I don't have an update or readout for you on the exemptions, but those tariffs will be for public consumption in about 24 hours tomorrow, so you can read them then.
Okay. So from tariffs tomorrow to tariffs March 1st, back to tariffs tomorrow, David, yes?
That is the situation.
That's where we are in the story right now. And the Canadian dollar, I'm just watching a trade here, has fallen 50 basis points in a matter of minutes. And it's flirting with the 69 cent U.S. range. In fact, it just briefly traded at 68.98 cents U.S. As I say, you can really watch the swings on this story just by looking at what the loonie does on the currency market. So just to bring you right up to date on everything that's going on there. Tariffs tomorrow, back on after being off and out of the news cycle for about an hour. Jody in Calgary, thanks for waiting, Jody. I had to get that news out there. Hope you understand. Go ahead, Jody.
No problem, Rob. Just got about three things to say here. Like, first of all, I think the reason why about these tariffs, like from the idiot Trump, is basically because he despises Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party of Canada. Like, I really think that's what's going on there. And like a lot of Canadians, he thinks that Trudeau is an idiot, an asshole. Excuse my language. Second thing here is I thought it was really despicable the way that Trump responded to the plane crash in Washington D.C., where he blamed it on DEI.
Right.
Hiring. The guy is a total, a scumbag psychopath.
Okay.
And anyway, his day will come, put it that way. And the third thing, I was just trying to get your opinion on this. What do you think about Daniel Smith's border czar pitch?
Well, I find that interesting. That's not kind of how we operate in Canada, but it has the backing, I notice, of the CEOs of one of the big Canadian banks. The CEO of the CIBC did an interview with one of the papers and said that's a very good idea, that we have to be on the same level with the Americans, and we have to be speaking their language, and we have to be coordinating on these things if we want to make any progress on this tariff threat, and that a borders czar, position of border czar, is actually not a bad idea. So maybe it's not a bad idea. I'll put that question to the listeners as well. What do you think about that idea? Border czar of Canada.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Eric in Cole Harbor, you're on the Friday free-for-all Talkback hour. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rob. How you doing? I have
good,
a bit of a different perspective about this.
Okay.
Possibility in the future, what he might be after. Now, this is only something that I thought about. I think he wants an economic union. I know I mentioned that previously. But also, when you think of it, he's after our natural resources. We got the third largest oil reserves in the world. We're blessed with probably the largest supply of fresh water in the world, which is becoming a commodity that's dissipating very, very quickly. And if you look at the breadbasket of the United States, places like North Texas, we'll say, they have been in a severe drought, and they've mismanaged their aquifer. And, if they don't rehydrate their land, they're going to be in big trouble. And you look at the climate right now, they're starting their growing season should be starting, but they're all in the ice and snow, which typically isn't at this time of the year. So I think that is a possibility. We have a lot of rare earth minerals such as uranium, also such as lithium.
What do you think? We have the third largest proven oil reserves. We're a top producer of natural gas. We have massive coal reserves. We're the world's top producer of potash. Okay, in the world. Okay, potash. Top producer of uranium. Among the world's top producers of gold, copper, nickel, iron ore, platinum, diamonds, critical minerals, as you mentioned, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah. So I think it's a possibility that, some of the points that the people are making are good points. I don't have any disagreement with that, and points that you've made before. But I think if you look a little further into it, I think that's a legitimate concept, that what he's actually after. And then I wonder about Greenland. Under the ice, if that dissipates, and, if the climate and the cycle that we're in keeps on changing as rapidly as it is, I wonder what the mineral resources are in Greenland, besides the strategic value militarily.
Right.
He's playing us just like a yo-yo, like a ping pong. And he's got those people in Ottawa, which I really don't think have any clues at all.
Right. With the exception of David and I, of course, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I went to school in Ottawa too, so I'm an expatriate of Ottawa in a sense.
Okay.
But
all right.
But anyways, I'll just close with this. I don't think it's to his advantage to ruin our economy. He really needs it now. I don't think he's the totalitarian everybody thinks he is. I really don't.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. All right. Thank you, Eric. I want to get to some other calls here. Let's get to some other calls. Al is in Alberta. Hi, Al. You're on the air. Go ahead, Al.
How are you doing?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
Mr. Trump.
Okay.
On his first run at the White House, he hired a guy that retired from Exxon, who ran Exxon for years. His name was Rex Tillerson.
Tillerson, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay,
he
well,
was Secretary of State, I believe, right?
Yes, or whatever, chief of staff or whatever. But anyway, he
Secretary
fired
of State, I
him
believe.
shortly after, within a couple of months, he fired him. Rex Tillerson did one time he said it, and the only reason it was only once is because the man Trump will chase a man to the ends of the earth to stab him in the heart just because he upset him. But here's Tillerson said he's got to be the dumbest man I ever met. But he's also a thief. He stole his brother's inheritance from, when his brother passed away, he stole his dad's. That's where the money all came from, was from the old man.
Right. Well, whatever the case, sir. I mean, all of this. I can't attest to everything that you're saying.
Well,
but,
no. But the thing is, the kid.
The fact is, he's the president of the United States. The most powerful person in the world. Gonna have to deal with him for better or for worse. Right?
Yeah. Boy, oh boy. Yeah. I find it hard to believe that close to 100 million people voted for him. It's just unbelievable.
Well, you have to operate in the world as it is, not as you wish it would be. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
anyway. Okay.
I'm sure in your part of the country there are a lot of people who are saying, how could those people in Toronto, how could all those people in Montreal, how could all those people in Atlantic Canada vote for a dummy like Justin Trudeau? Right?
Well, yeah. I can't.
And yet these are the cards we're dealt, and
I can't.
Got to live with the
go
consequences.
To the bar here and say anything bad about the PCs because I'd get run out of town. But okay. So when
all right.
Anyway,
I got you, Al. You're not a fan. Thank you. That's fine. Let's go to David. Is in Silver Lake. Hi, David. What's on your mind, David?
Yeah, in regards to the axe attack theme that's been going around, I know even Mr. Carney said we have to find another way to replace it. And there's one replacement I've never heard anybody talk about, and that is cut spending. I mean, the money that our government wastes when we look at ArriveCam, we look at Phoenix, we look at the pipeline to the coast. I mean, there was a lot of wasted money there. And also, giving subsidies by the billions to companies that want to make batteries or make cars that are electric.
Big money there, yeah.
I think if we would say, okay, this is a free enterprise country. If you survive, you survive. If you don't, you don't. There are other people who will do the same thing or better. So my thing, the biggest replacement for axe attacks is cut spending and wasteful money. And I think we'd all benefit from it, really.
Yeah, I know this is a dream for a lot of free enterprise people. I've had it explained to me from big government liberals who are saying, "Look, Rob, you just don't get it. This is the way these industries operate. Take the battery plants, for example, or anything really to do with the automotive sector. They will say, if we don't provide these kinds of incentives, whatever manner those incentives happen to be, they'll gladly be offering the same kind of incentives in Ohio or South Dakota or North Carolina or whatever, because there's going to be a congressman who would love to go to a ribbon cutting and cut the ribbon on a brand new automotive factory and provide jobs for his constituents. Pay to play, sir, is how it's been described to me. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that is a viewpoint of a lot of politicians. You want to play, you got to pay. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback on a Friday, and this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the Friday free-for-all Talkback, Jordan in Halifax, you're up next. Jordan, what's on your mind, Jordan?
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you. What do you want to talk about here?
I just want to talk about the tariffs, and I hear all this about retaliatory, and we should do this, we should that. But what's he asking for? He asking for the stop of drugs, illegal drugs, and illegal people crossing the border. Why can't we agree with that, stop it, and then maybe he won't post tariffs on us? Why is that such an issue?
Right. Okay. Yeah. And shouldn't we have a secure border anyway?
I totally agree. We should.
It's not our job. I should say it's not our job to patrol the American border. It's their border, right? They can enforce whatever rules they want to. But when it comes to certainly our border, I don't think you would find too many Canadians who would be opposed to the government spending more money on border security.
Yeah, like he's asking to stop the stuff coming in. I'm not saying patrol the stuff but whatever. Why don't we look at that rather than worry about retaliatory this and retaliatory that? And
sure.
I don't think we can compete with them. They have a lot bigger market than us.
Yeah. I'm sure where you live and where we live, the police are making drug busts every day. And people are dying every day in this country of fentanyl, right? Yeah. It's not like it's a problem here. Where is it coming from?
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why that is not the main issue. Let's stop that.
Right. So, the tariff. But where are the precursor chemicals coming from? We're told they're coming from China. Okay, what's the Canadian government doing about that? We have heard that there are links between drug cartels in Mexico and organized crime organizations in Canada to get drugs from Mexico through the United States onto transport trucks and into Canada. Well, once it's crossing into the Canadian border, well, that's our problem. What are we doing about that? Right?
Exactly. I think we should really crack down on that, keep us all safe as we can. Maybe get rid of a couple hundred politicians and put that money into the border, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I hear you.
That's my plan.
Yeah, I hear you. I appreciate the call, Jordan. Thank you so much. Danvir is in Calgary. Hi, Danvir. Hello, Danvir. Are you there? Oh, doesn't sound like it. Let's go to Bill then. It is in Calgary. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good, Bill. Good to hear from you again.
Thanks. I think that most of your callers have been, right. We should be doing something about the border. I don't think that this is rocket science. I think we've been pretty lackadaisical about the whole thing for the last couple of decades.
Sure.
And, Trump's fair enough. Trump's calling us out on it, right? But that said, I think that we need to recognize the obvious here, and that's that we have a lot of things that Trump wants, a lot of resources, a lot of minerals that the United States needs. And, this is just Trump's way of cracking a walnut open, right? He's not interested in tariffs. He's interested in deregulation. He's interested in faster permitting. He's interested in spending money up here. And we should be just as interested. The reality of it is that we've done everything we can to not develop our resources, and we constantly forget that we truly are heroes of wood and bears of water. And Trump hasn't forgotten that. The people around Trump haven't forgotten that. The idea of taking 9 or 10 years and $1 billion just to get the licensing for a mine, for example, is ridiculous. And we really need to pick up our stuff on this. So, on the one hand, it's upsetting to hear Trump say the things he says, but he's a bombastic individual to begin with, so that's not a surprise. But on the other hand, he's only waking us up to the reality of our own situation. And we've got nobody to blame but ourselves for being put in this spot in the first place. Blame it on the Liberals, blame it on the Conservatives, blame it on whoever you want. The simple fact of the matter is that we've done a very, very bad job of managing our own household. And now we're paying the piper for it.
Okay, a mess of our own making.
And I don't think Trump is going to be, overly aggressive with tariffs. As an Albertan, I'm 99.9% certain there's not going to be any tariffs on oil and gas. He's not going to cut his nose off to spite his face. So, but Canadians need to remember as well, we're talking about a country that literally, they spent, $850 billion last year on their military. They spend more money on their military than the entire world put together. If the United States wants to go to a country and throw $1 trillion at it, they can. So Venezuela might take a couple of years to wind up, but it could do it. They can go where they want to go. So it's incumbent upon us to give them the reason to put that money here, I think. Anyway, thanks a lot, Rob.
All right, Bill. Thank you. Very interesting. We'll stop here. And Keith in Nova Scotia, you just hang on the line. We'll take your call next. It is the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. And we have a line available for you at 1-833-668-2577. Let your opinion be known on any issue of the day. I'm Rob Snow, and this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Our lines are jammed right now. If we don't get to you before the top of the hour here, remember there's a whole second hour of Talkback. We'll get you on right after the latest breaking news at the top of the hour. And you can share your opinion with us like Keith is about to. He's in Nova Scotia. Hi, Keith. What's up?
Good afternoon, Rob. How are you?
I'm great, Keith. Thank you
for
calling.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm just calling. Just seems like Donald is kind of like dangling a carrot or a noose over us right now, and it's. Right. I think he's playing. Playing is like Stradivarius, and he doesn't like Trudeau. And one of your other callers made a comment about how Trudeau may have said something that Donald didn't like, and when Donald gets his hands on that, he won't let it go. So
right.
He'll abuse Trudeau until he leaves. That's what I think, and it's interesting to see that he is only going to supposedly impose 10% tariffs on his friend in China. That's interesting, and I just think that you know what, he's saying one thing right now, and then it's changed, and now he's saying another thing. So I'm not going to be shocked if there's nothing comes tomorrow, to be honest with you, because I don't believe a word that comes out of that man's mouth.
So when he says, well, you have to, Canada has to do something about the flow of illegal drugs and illegal migration. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that? Do you believe that's part of his motivation for doing this?
Well, why doesn't he beef up his border to Canada more?
Okay.
Why doesn't he, instead of putting it, saying all that's from what I understand and what I've read and heard, that there's not that much fentanyl coming from Canada into the U.S. as where it's coming from Mexico into the U.S.
Okay.
And as far as the immigration goes, I don't
now remember about fentanyl. Just remember one thing about fentanyl. Like, say they catch 40 pounds of fentanyl or something, right? They bust
40 pounds. Yeah.
Right. It only takes a couple of tiny little grams can kill somebody, right?
Oh, I know. It's an extremely dangerous, deadly drug. But my point is,
you do one big drug bust of fentanyl, wipe out a whole city like Halifax.
That's crazy. But my point is, there's more coming from the U.S., coming from Mexico into the U.S. than there is coming from Canada. Going across the
well, there have been some pretty big,
tons of fentanyl coming across the border.
Busts of super labs in Canada recently, sir.
Yeah, well, that's a great news. But I still think that the majority of it, the problems are coming from the U.S. And like I said, I think he likes one of your callers said he's very bombastic, and he has his personality. But also,
and the Trudeau stuff, do you think he takes that person? Do you think that these problems with Trump and the way he's treating Canada will go when Trudeau is gone?
I can't really say that for sure, but he will chase Trudeau till the ends of the earth because he's told his people, "I'm your retribution," and when he gets his hands on something, he will not let it go. He'll destroy you. That's just the nature of his personality. And, so we'll see what happens, but I won't be shocked if he either doesn't give us any tariffs or he reduces the amount of tariffs.
All right. Fingers crossed for our economy either way, because tariffs will not be good for this economy. Okay, we got to go. They're playing the music. They're hauling us off the stage. We're getting the hook. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. And it is the Friday free-for-all, so we are open line, open topic. But Trump and tariffs continues to be the dominant issue again today. And just let us bring you up to date on everything that's happened, even in just the last hour and a half, because it's been a bit of a whirlwind. Okay. Yesterday, as you know, Donald Trump reiterated 25% tariffs are coming to Canada and Mexico tomorrow, February 1st. But then there was a report, again, about an hour and a half ago. It was from the Reuters news service. It cited 3 sources and said tariffs aren't coming to Canada and Mexico tomorrow, but rather March 1st. And the countries could lobby and ask for exemptions for certain industries between now and March 1st. But then at the White House press briefing, the White House press secretary was asked, what about this report from Reuters about March 1st instead of February 1st? And she said, no, I don't think so. These tariffs are coming to Canada and Mexico and China, and they're coming tomorrow. Roll the tape, David.
I saw that report, and it is false. I was just with the president in the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
The president yesterday said that last night he was planning to discuss whether an exemption would be made on oil imports. Do you have any information on what decision he made there, or will there be exemptions at all offered under this?
I don't have an update or readout for you on the exemptions, but those tariffs will be for public consumption in about 24 hours tomorrow, so you can read them then.
So February 1st. Now, yesterday, Donald Trump was well, what about oil? Canada exports a lot of oil to the United States, and he said oil has nothing to do with this. So February 1st, back on tomorrow, you heard the press secretary there, Caroline Leavitt, say, you'll find out in 24 hours. You'll find out in 24 hours. Now, meantime, Ontario Premier Doug Ford, of course, he's been saying we have to match these tariffs dollar for dollar and blow for blow. And he's actually called a snap election campaign. So he's on the campaign trail today, and he's asked, well, what about all of these shifting timelines about when the tariffs might hit Canada? Let's listen to the Ontario Premier.
The tariffs again. If they are imposed tomorrow, can you just explain how Canada responds? So we publish our own list, and do those take effect immediately? Do you go into the LCBO and start clearing the shelves of bourbon? Like, what exactly happens tomorrow?
Well, let's find out if they are going to happen. These goalposts, as one of the reporters said earlier, they're shifting minute by minute. One time, the Secretary of Commerce will say something, and then Secretary Rubio will say something, and the President says something. They have to get their comms down pat. That's a big problem down there. The White House has to be speaking to everyone else, because right now, I don't think anyone knows what's happening down there. So we'll be prepared, we'll be ready, and as soon as these tariffs come, we'll match them, dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff.
So that was Ontario Premier Doug Ford. So we've talked so much about this issue this week, Trump, tariffs, Canada, what to do, how to respond. If you want to get back into it in this hour, there are any number of angles we can explore this issue with you at 1-833-668-2577. But again, it's open line, open topic. So wherever you want to take the conversation, I just wanted to bring everybody right up to date. Because it's been a heck of a 2 hours since we signed on the air. Dan is in Halifax. Hi, Dan.
It's Van, I believe.
Van. Okay, Van. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Van.
I can't believe that we're trading oil for water. I mean, that's pretty clear with Danielle up in Calgary. I mean, it's almost treason as far as I look at it.
You think the Alberta Premier is committing treason?
Well, you look at the Water Act and what we're allowed to. We can't give away our water, and she's giving away our water for the oil, and that's what I see.
Okay. I don't know. How are we giving away our water?
Well,
I'm unclear
the
about
reason
that.
why is that oil has been cut back from from Trump, and the reason why is so they can divert the water down to California.
What oil has been cut back from Trump? What oil are you talking about?
Well, Trump has said that the oil will not be part of the tariffs. Correct?
Well, he said oil has nothing to do with this. That's his exact quote. We have the exact quote. Let's play it, David. We play it. It's only about 6 seconds. Okay.
Oil is going to have nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. Oil has nothing to do with it.
That was yesterday.
Correct.
Oil has nothing to do with it.
The reason why is the premier from Alberta has gone down and lobbied to give water on behalf of the oil.
Oh, where did you read that? Where did you hear that? Is there a news story about that?
It's pretty obvious.
Oh, so you're just drawing your own conclusions then?
Correct.
Okay. Do you think? I don't know how Alberta has the power to trade oil for water, anyway, sir.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But what else?
Okay.
What else is what else can they bargain for?
Well, there's 4.5 million barrels of oil that are leaving Alberta and going to the United States every day. Right? It's the most valuable commodity that Canada has.
Correct.
By far. It's the number one industry in Alberta, and it is a great wealth-producing industry for all of Canada. You would agree with that? So why wouldn't the Alberta Premier go to the United States and want to keep that industry thriving the way it is now? I would also point out that the public safety minister is there today representing the Trudeau government. So is the foreign affairs minister representing the Trudeau government. So is the finance minister representing the Trudeau government. But are they all committing treason by going to the United States and lobbying on behalf of Canada?
Well, I guess.
Or is it only Danielle Smith who's committing treason?
Well,
Danielle Smith, who has no bargaining power to do anything with Canada's water, sir. I think you're drawing completely the wrong conclusions. I think you have your head in your clouds. I think you have your head in the clouds, sir. Thank you for your call, though. I appreciate it. I just vehemently disagree with you. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback, Friday Free For All, News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's get right to Jay in Kitchener, Ontario. Jay, you're on the air. What's on your mind, Jay?
I could be wrong, but I don't think much is going to happen before Monday because tomorrow and Sunday are not business days.
Okay.
So, I mean, there was a time we had fires in the States a couple weeks ago. They needed our Canadian firefighters to help. So, he loves to knock us off balance.
Okay.
I'm a disabled male myself.
Yes.
And I find He has a disability that is much more hidden. It's more bully than effectiveness.
Okay. So you think we're getting worked up for nothing, Jay?
No. Just, I could be wrong.
Right.
And if I am, I will sit corrected because I haven't stood for 20 years. But
okay, all right.
I just let's watch and see what happens because it would.
We're watching it.
Some time to have to adjust things Monday morning anyway because Monday is when everybody else is back to work.
Yes. Well, you won't want to miss this show on Monday. Well, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about, Jay.
I know.
Come Monday, by the sounds of things, whether the tariffs happen or not, I think we're going to be busy next week. Thank you for your call. Kathleen is, sorry, Jay. Kathleen, been waiting some time in Calgary there. Kathleen, hi there.
Hi there. How are you doing?
I'm good, Kathleen. How are you?
I'm good. Just a side note, the caller that was talking about Danielle Smith giving our water away for oil, I think that was a NAFTA agreement done by Brian Mulroney many years ago, wasn't it? Back in 88, 89?
Yeah, I don't know.
They do that. That's not our premier. She's very good. Anyways, I wanted to just talk about a bill that's going to be going through the Senate. And I think everybody needs to realize what these insurance companies, the private insurance companies, are doing. I went on disability about 4 years ago, and like full long-term disability. And I worked for an engineering company for about 25 years. That's all good. So I got 70% of my wage paid by the insurance companies. Now, they came along and said, we think you should apply for your registered disability savings plan through the Canadian government. And I thought, well, that's nice. You know, my disability isn't indexed to inflation or anything. So I did that. And what they did was they cut me back on my 70% wage that I paid into for my benefits all these 25 years and substituted it with a registered disability savings plan. So they're getting away with not paying 20% of my wage. The Canadian taxpayers are now funding these insurance companies, and this apparently is a well-known thing that these guys get away with. And I talked to my insurance company, and the guy I talked to, he said, I don't agree with it either, but this is what they've got in the books. So there is a bill that's going through the Senate this year. Like, I've talked to my MP, Stephanie Cusey, and she conveyed this to me. I think all Canadians should get on board, call their senators, email them, and say this is wrong, that the Canadian taxpayer is picking up 20% of my wage for private insurance companies that I've paid in benefits for the last 25 years. And that's all I want to say. So
I'm not familiar. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this with this specific piece of legislation. You're saying it's passed through the House of Commons already. It's in the Senate.
Oh, it's like what's happened. There's a new bill coming up to say we want to stop this. The insurance companies should not be getting this. I shouldn't be applying for a registered disability savings plan, and then the insurance company gets away with not paying 20%.
I'm just wondering if it hasn't received royal assent yet, whether it because prorogation wipes out everything. Bills that haven't passed have to start all over again.
Oh, crap. I didn't know that. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So if that's the case, then we got to start from square one again.
Prorogation is like a giant reset button for Parliament.
Fair enough. Okay. That's good to know. Well, I'm going to get, it's just something for the Canadian
So just so I understand, because I know you've waited quite some time to explain this, you were getting 70% of your pay from the insurance company. They switched you over to this other program.
Yep.
And was your benefit cut?
Yes.
Or are you still getting the same payment?
Well, I still get
Are you still getting your 70%?
Yes. I still get my 70%.
You're still getting your 70%. It's just the insurance company's only paying 50 and the taxpayer's paying 20?
Correct. That is absolutely 100% correct.
Okay. I'm going to look into that. I want to know more. Thank you.
Please do. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. We will do some of our own, and we're pretty good at digging up stuff on that, David and I. Thank you. We can make some calls on that. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback, Friday free for all. We will follow your lead, just like we did with Kathleen. You never know where it might lead you. Thanks for your call, Kathleen. Very interesting. Be right back. This is Talkback.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It's the Friday free-for-all Talkback. We'd love to hear from you today. Lots of time to take your call. I believe we have Danveer on the line. Danveer, Calgary, you there?
Hello, Rob?
Yeah, hi, Danveer.
Hey, sorry, I dropped my call earlier.
That's okay. That's okay. What's on your mind?
The same thing, tariffs. We've been talking about this.
Tariffs, yeah, I know.
If you remember. Yeah,
sure.
I don't know why we think about it as counter tariffs as a win situation. Actually, like to begin with, it's a diplomatic failure, right? And then if we look at all the economic policies since the Trudeau era, like I would say only 5 to 10 out of 100 would be considered viable or good. Otherwise, they have always failed on those fronts. They don't even look at it as though they have to do anything on those policies.
Okay.
So when we are doing counter tariffs, the biggest problem right now with Canada is low productivity. And most of the new machinery, new technology is coming from U.S. That's our most convenient source.
Okay.
And most reliable. And when we are putting counter tariffs, we are killing that again. So I don't know how that becomes a win situation if we are putting a counter tariffs on tariffs. The tariffs is a lose situation, first of all, right? Tariffs from U.S. But when we are putting counter tariffs, it becomes a further loss to us as a country. Like it is good points for the politicians like Doug Ford, who's going for election, for Liberals, because they want to focus on Ontario, right? They are showing them that this is a win situation, but even the productivity in Ontario is going to fall when we are not able to invest into new technology and the tariff is only going to affect the manufacturing industry. And when you are not improving your productivity, it's further going to be bad for Trump is only lasting 4 years. That's it.
Okay.
But any investment not made into manufacturing, that's going to kill our industry more than 4 years. I don't know. This is a really bad policy, and by thinking that this is a win situation, I think we are going on a wrong path.
Okay. What would be a better policy then?
The best in this, up till now, up till today, would have been these guys needed to sit quiet, just talk diplomatically, not threaten with counter tariffs. Actually, I think Daniel Smith is doing a much better job than any of the other leaders.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Danveer, for your call. I want to take one more here. John in Calgary. John, you're on the air, John.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Hey, John, look, we might only have 30 seconds. Do you want to...
Okay.
You can wait through the... It'd be 4 minutes. Okay.
Sure,
Give me 4 minutes of your day. Thank you. Thank you, because I look forward to hearing what you say, but it's just not enough time to get a full opinion from you. So just to hang on the line and we'll stop here, John. And we'll be right back, and we'll be in the home stretch of today's Talkback, the Friday Free-for-All edition. This is News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the Friday Free-for-All, we're back with John. John is in Calgary today. Hi, John. Thanks for waiting, John.
Hi,
go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for taking my call.
A pleasure.
Regarding the tariffs, I think it's foolish to think this is about the border. It's not.
Okay.
We're talking 40 pounds of fentanyl last year, which is basically, I know it's an incredibly dangerous drug, but it's a pure drop in the bucket that's coming into the South. This isn't about the border. This is about Trump being vindictive and his America First policies. It has nothing to do with the border. Even if we increase our border, anybody think that there'll never be fentanyl that gets across the border? It will still happen.
Right.
And if it's at 43 pounds now, how low do you think it can get? 20? 10? Okay, still. The fact is, this is a vengeful man that's, out to, I think he probably feels slighted by Trudeau. I know he does. And frankly, as Canadians, this isn't, I view it as them declaring economic war on Canada. And the fact that people think we should roll over and just wave the white flag, forget about it. We should put
what should we be doing then? What should we be doing? I'm willing to hear you out here.
We should be putting tariffs on their key products. Orange juice.
Okay.
They're in the red states that it will hit them the most, where their senators have pull with him. Alcohol coming out of Louisiana, all of those kind of things. We should be, like Doug Ford said, the electricity. We should be putting export tax on our oil. Frankly, if this was truly about,
I don't know. That'd be you'd break up the country for one.
Well, should we roll over and allow him to collapse this economically? Is that what we should do?
Let's think about how this is going to go over. Okay. Now there may be a way around this. I don't know what negotiations are happening, but behind the scenes. Okay. But you just think, you're in Alberta. You know all about the National Energy Program from the first Trudeau government. Sure. And part of that was an export tax, and how that went over in Alberta, a tax collected on Alberta's energy, a tax collected by Ottawa to be spent probably against Alberta's interests and instead to curry favor in central Canada. And think about this, hydroelectricity in Quebec, big issue there for them. They're selling electricity into New England and into New York. The separatists are already on the march and are going to win the next election in Quebec. How do you think they would feel about having an export tax collected on Quebec's energy, a tax that would go to Ottawa and not Quebec City? You're playing with fire with a policy like that, sir.
I'm Canadian first. I'm not an Albertan first. And frankly, I view this as a threat to Canada. And I'm willing to suffer some pain in Alberta for my country.
Okay.
And frankly, this idea that if we tax oil, Alberta's going to separate. It's 20% in this province right now that want to leave to the U.S. It's not 49-50. It's 20. And frankly, this man down south is actually declaring economic war on us, and that's what it is. That's purely what it is. There's no reason for these tariffs coming in other than, he has this strange thing going on in his crazy mind. And frankly, the whole country has to get together and stand together and fight for this.
Okay.
There's things we need to do. We need to reduce interprovincial trade.
Oh yes.
All the barriers to that.
All those barriers. Yeah, I'm with you there.
We need to look at forming partnerships outside of the U.S. and be less reliant on them. New trade agreements with European Union, all these other nations. We need to expand where we sell our goods and services to.
Yeah.
And frankly, if this isn't the time for us to stand up and fight, what is?
Okay.
What's next?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I've heard your opinion, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. And I've let you had your say, but I've got to get other callers on the line. All the best. John, let's see what comes of it. The day is not done yet. There could be more twists and turns on the way. Tom is in Cambridge. Thanks for calling, Tom. You're on the air. What's on your mind today, Tom?
Welcome back, Rob. Hope you're feeling well.
Yeah, feel fine. Thank you.
Good. Well, first of all, I do agree. It should be Canada first. That's just part of the issue is that we seem to be put in a province or something else, and it's Canada first. Doesn't matter where you live. It should be Canada first. Second of all is that, I think that we should, China's not going to sit back and react. They're not going to take back a 10%. My understanding, I'm just looking at YouTube, they're going to impose 75% tariffs on American products. Whether or not that's true or not, but it becomes sort of laughable at the same time. So this whole thing is, and I also agree, this has got nothing to do with border security. You know, if the U.S. wants to worry about border security, look about in your own backyard first. There's more stuff heading north than there is heading south from Canada. So you've got problems you've got interprovincial state problems, and you have problems at the Mexican border, and you have problems in your own country. We can't fix your problems or mine fix ours at the same time. So it's like a relationship. I love you, but change. I want you to do everything for me, and once you start doing everything for me, I'm going to throw a few more balls at you and see if you can juggle those as well. You know, it's whatever his game plan is. It's been noticed for a long time. The United States have always.
Okay, what do you think his game plan is? If it's not about the border, then what's it about then?
It's sort of economics. Canada has a lot of things that the U.S. has always wanted. And it's been alluded to a lot of times. Natural fresh water is one. Natural resources is two.
Okay.
But, you know, and again, would you also agree?
But we, if you listen to our political leaders, we would gladly sell that stuff to him. So why does he want to make it more expensive to buy?
Okay, but maybe you ought to talk to the Canadian people first before you make a decision for the people who pay your salaries. This is the other side of that. You're going to make judgments and decisions based on what? Have you talked? You know, this is up to us as Canadian citizens as well. It's not a corporation here that's looking at, geez, I've got millions and millions of dollars invested in here, and if I don't get what I want, I'm going to go south too, which has happened anyhow. How much money has Ontario, any other province invested in businesses coming up from the States in the promise that they're going to create jobs here, only to stay here for a couple of years, then go back to the border, south of the border, or go to Mexico or go to China? You know, it just becomes this whole thing here. And lastly, Mr. Poilievre, you know, with this thing about tax, calling the tax, he's got to watch himself too. He's got some support from Elon Musk, but wasn't he one that was asking for the heads of the Liberals who let the Nazi or the supportive Nazi or the Nazi soldier into the House, into Parliament there, back there a couple of months ago when the Speaker had to leave, was left on his own here. And now he's sort of aligning himself with Elon Musk, and that's the guy who did give a Nazi salute. So it's, Mr. Poilievre, you got to pick your battles there too, okay? All right, thanks.
Okay.
Welcome back.
All right, okay. Holy, it's a lot to take in with the last two calls. I'll give it some thought. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. Friday free-for-all on a dizzying day in news and commentary. Your thoughts are welcome, please. Deep breaths, everyone. Deep breaths. The tariffs aren't here yet. Doesn't mean they won't be here tomorrow, but they're not here yet. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Wade in Sylvan Lake, you're up next on the Friday Free-for-All Talkback Hour. What's up, Wade?
Rob, as per your jingle, there's something on my mind I want everyone to know.
All right, the world is waiting.
And I'm tired of tariff talk.
You are.
I'd like to talk
you're in
about
good company
Alberta.
there.
I'm
you're
sorry?
in good company there. You're in good company there, Wade.
I'd like to talk about the Alberta pension plan.
Okay. What Alberta pension plan?
Well, there's one that we're working on trying to implement and get a vote or a referendum on if and when it comes to fruition. We need to have a vote on it. And I did the math. In 2021, Alberta gave the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, we gave the Canada Pension Plan $9 billion. Our seniors got back $6 billion. That left $3 billion of our dollars for the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board to invest. Now, the Canada Pension Plan claims that they are not influenced by government at all. But the members of the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board get appointed by the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, who up until December was Chrystia Freeland. So I can't imagine that she's going to appoint anybody to that board that wasn't going to carry on with their green narrative. So that's one thing.
She's from Alberta. She surely wouldn't do bad things to Alberta. She's from Alberta.
So
that's what she said during her campaign launch. She's from Alberta. She's proud to be Albertan.
Let's not go there.
Christia from Alberta. You know Christia from Alberta.
Yeah. Anyways,
good Alberta girl.
I'm currently collecting CPP. Right. I'm getting what I would consider the max. I'm getting $1,500 and change a month.
Okay.
The average Albertan senior is getting $800 a month.
Okay.
So there's 650,000 seniors in Alberta that are collecting CPP. If you do the math, 650,000 times 1,500 is $975 million. That's not even $1 billion. If you do the math on $800, which is the average, that works out to $520 million. So there was $3 billion. This is in 2021. There's $3 billion of our taxpayers' dollars that if we would have kept in this province and put into an Alberta pension plan, we could have increased seniors' payments and decreased the amount that people have to pay into it. Employers and employees, right?
Okay.
And,
I'm not here to check anybody's math. I don't know if your math adds up, whatever.
I'm just saying,
I don't know the whole pension thing. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. It was all part of the whole idea of building firewalls around Alberta, some 30 years ago. But I've got to run. Wait, I got you. You think an Alberta pension plan would be better for the pensioners in Alberta? Fair enough point. Let's go to Shane, I believe it is, in Redwater, Alberta.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome, Shane. Yeah.
Yeah, so just back to the tariffs again. I don't know if people are exhausted with this, but I don't believe, people call in and they put down Trump. He's a bonehead. He's full of hot air. Trump's the smartest guy in the room almost everywhere he goes. Like, I hate to tell people this. And when you ask about what the end game of the tariffs are, in my opinion, and from the people that I'm listening to, the end game of the tariffs are to eliminate the unconstitutional income tax, federal income tax that they have in the United States. Yeah. He's not really saying it out loud yet, but there's a lot of people saying that that's what
he has said it out loud. He has said it out loud. That's why he wants to create this whole external revenue service. He thinks that the country is too reliant on the internal revenue service. He wants to provide income tax for the middle class, lower income people, seniors, and if he wants to do that, he's got to get revenue from somewhere, and tariffs is an option.
Okay, fine. That's true. Like I heard you asking the other callers what the end game is or whatever. And then one other point about, I'm in Alberta, obviously.
Sure.
What's going to happen in Alberta if Trump carves out an exception for oil? Because obviously he's not going to put tax on oil going down that he gets for a crazy discount to his refineries that they can't refine light oil. They need heavy oil from Alberta. So when that happens and he carves out an exemption for our oil, what's going to happen when the federal government imposes one? Like,
imposes what, sir? I'm sorry, sir. Imposes what?
Starts charging a tariff going south. Starts charging them
an export tax.
Unilaterally an export tax on our product.
Right.
When nobody in Alberta supports that.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen? If we have a premier who's doing the will
as I said to the caller from Calgary who advocaate for an export tax, I think it could lead to the breakup of the country.
Well, the caller from Calgary, there's two Albertas. So I'm on my way to go to work right now. It's 30. It's going to be 30 below with the wind chill. I work outside all day to help produce this product. There's a lot of people in Alberta that don't, and we don't. We're tired of Canada operating on the backs of Albertans, and it's just like that last caller said. You do the math on almost anything, and you're going to come to the conclusion that Alberta is just, it's a colony for resource extraction for Eastern Canada, and we are getting tired of it. And if this something like that happens, there is a growing sentiment of separation in Alberta. I can tell you right now. So it's just not looking good, and I hope the cooler heads prevail.
Yeah, and export taxes on commodities from provinces aren't just an Alberta concern. They're a Scott Moe concern in Saskatchewan, totally opposed. And believe me, as I said, the separatists in Quebec are on the rise. They don't want taxes on commodities leaving Quebec and the money not going to Quebec City and going to Ottawa instead. Are you crazy? They'd have a field day with that. Thanks. Stay warm, my friend. We'll be right back. This is News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Just a couple of minutes left here before we call it a week for us here on Talkback. Let's go to Hickey. You're on the air, Hickey. What's on your mind today? Go ahead.
Thanks, Rob. Just, back to our conversation even 6 months ago, we're still 13 roommates living in a house together, and we're all stealing each other's sandwich. I mean, it was amazing how quickly the rest of the premiers kicked Danielle down the road when she's down there trying to, figure out a solution. Trump is the landlord, and he just raised the rent, and there's no rent cap. I think what we have to do is the premiers have to get together. We have to figure out how to get our natural resources to the ocean. And the only good news is that if, Trump's going to sit there and, tariff the EU and China and everybody else, is we got to make friends with everybody else out there and try and figure out, who wants our stuff and how we get it to them and how we maximize that. That's going to be the only plan of attack for us moving forward. And I appreciate your conversation yesterday about the universal wage benefit. And literally, my thought process with that is we got to start giving the seniors more money so, all of these people don't have to save up as much money and they can actually afford to live. If we take care of our seniors long term in this country, I think we'd be a lot better off.
All right. Great points as always, Hickey. Love taking your calls. You call back anytime. Well, David, it was quite a whirlwind talk back today, wasn't it?
Was that enough for you? Enough news or what?
My goodness gracious. What a day. Just to recap everything just in the final few seconds that we have. It was supposed to be February 1st. February 1st. Tariffs are coming February 1st. Tomorrow is February 1st. Today's the last day of January. And then Reuters broke a story about 3 hours ago, and it said, nope, not February 1st, March 1st. And countries can apply to the Trump administration and ask for exemptions. The oil industry, the aluminum industry, steel, autos, whatever industry. And then, within the hour, the White House press secretary held her briefing and said the Reuters story is wrong and the tariffs are coming February 1st, which is tomorrow. So the dollar, when the March 1st story broke, the dollar rallied all the way up to 69.57 cents US. And right now it's down almost a full penny from that. 68.78 cents US. And as far as anyone knows, tomorrow is tariff day. Buckle up.